first experience of cars, I remember my parents, when we used to go out on a Sunday drive, telling me that I, at a very early age, knew every make of car that were coming towards us. So I just reel off cars from my period, VW Beetles, Austin 1100s. There was obviously something in me that was drawn to cars and things with engines, motorbikes, go-karts, motorsport. Well, I watched a programme called The Winning Streak. It was about Roger Clark and a journalist who was his navigator. It was inspirational, it was exciting, probably to other people not so exciting, but to me it hit a spot and it sent me on a straightforward journey instead of being this wayward lad. There was something I wanted to do in my life. And I went down to the library and found out which was the local motor club, which was the Shipley Motor Club, which we display even to this day on this race car. And I sent a letter to them, because you didn't email in them days. I sent a letter, explained who I was, explained my age, and asked if it was possible to be a member. And I can. In fact, this person is responsible for this journey, and it was David Taylor. And he was the chap who in the meeting made it okay for a lad underage really to be in the motor club. And my journey started. I went to Airwood Hill Climb and became a young marshal. I went to rallies and became a marshal, but I had this thing, I had a diary, and I had to fill every weekend with something motorsport. It could be something low-key like an auto test, or it could be something big like Rally GB or the Lombard RAC Rally as it was known then. And that was my aim in life, was to be around motorsport every weekend at a young age. 9 years old, a chap from Leicester moved in the area, and he had a lad my age, and like you do when you live on a cul-de-sac, we got friendly and we played football and we chatted, and his dad were into minis. And I've got to say, Graham Brayshaw, who were his father, was the inspiration to me getting into minis. I liked what I saw in his drive. I learnt a little bit of mechanicking by watching him. The people I hung around with at the motor club had minis, and they auto tested minis, and it just seemed to be something that attached itself to me even to this day. It's easy, it's got to be a Mini Cooper S, a mid-60s Cooper S in standard trim. As much as I like racing and motorsport and tuned up cars, a standard 1965 Cooper S would be perfect. It's really easy, is that one. Whenever anybody asks me this question about the Mini, it's really simple. It's an inoffensive car that you can turn up to any event in. So you can go to your local supermarket in it, or you can go get your OBE at Buckingham Palace in it. Everybody loves a Mini, and everybody's got a story about a Mini. Fairly simple question really. When you've got a passion for something, you're attached to people who like what you do. And at a very early age, I had a garage at home. I used to work in engineering in them days, and people at work were running Minis and cars of that ilk, and were asking me to look after them. And it were a little bit of extra money to help pay the bills at home. But as it happens, it grows and grows and grows, and before you know it, you've got to make a decision between, do I work for somebody to take a salary, or do I take this somewhere else and turn it into a business? And it was a difficult decision. I get asked quite a lot how I started, and it wasn't an easy decision. I had a young family, I'd got a mortgage, and it's 30 years ago now, so it all seems quite easy now, but it wasn't at the time. So as customer base has changed drastically over the last sort of 35, 40 years, so you've got to remember, in the 70s and 80s, people used cars as everyday vehicles, and we were literally keeping cars on the road. So somebody would come in with a car not running, it needed servicing, MOTing, and our aim was to keep that car on the road. And you could, like you can with any car, you could see a change in how the cars were coming, what sort of Minis came, and then there was a period in time where they sort of dropped off the scale as everyday cars and became projects and became what I call as toys for people. They're running everyday modern Minis now, and they have a Mini at home as a classic for the weekend, and that's where we come in now. We get them once a year, twice a year, getting them ready for shows, getting them ready for events. Yeah, the everyday car is a bit of a rarity nowadays, but we still do it, and I enjoy doing that. There's nothing I find more appealing than somebody who still runs a car every day, and I've got to say, when it's the first time driver, the early driver, it appeals to me even more, because that's your next run of customers. Well, racing's fairly straightforward. You do like anybody does. I started off as a late teenager doing club level motorsport, be it auto testing, hill climbing, production car trialling, a bit of road rallying, moved into historic rallying when that was its really early stages, and then got into Mighty Minis. We started racing Mighty Minis in 2000. We sponsored a series champion called Pat Ford, and we sponsored him, and I went to watch him, and I thought, I ought to be doing this as well. And for 2 seasons I sponsored Pat, and I raced myself and learnt a lot from Pat, and we progressed from there. I progressed on to Super Mighty Minis, into Extreme Mighty Minis. We went to Sebring in Florida with the Extreme and Winners class. Went to Miglia Racing, and then the car over my shoulder, the red one, which is affectionately known as 72 Ace, ex-Richard Longman race car. We bought it and got a run at the 2009 Goodwood Revival mini race. Total dream come true. I've been going to the Revival since 2005 and was led to believe it was a very difficult event to get into, sort of at my level, and the mini race came along and we had the car. It's a really good question, because when you're racing the car just as me, you've got this car and you're driving it and you're doing all right and you're having a bit of fun, and then Goodwood comes along and wants you to race in their event, and they offer you a driver. And the first driver we had offered to us was Christian Horner from Red Bull, and it's just like you get hooked. It's like there's 2 of you enjoying the race, and Christian drove on the Saturday, I drove on the Sunday. They amalgamate the class, and you just think, wow, that was a great team event, and I got hooked on it. We got Barry Wizzo Williams, who's over my shoulder on the placards there, really good driver, really brought me to the forefront because he was a well-known club level driver as well as international driver. The next one was really my hero, Rowan Altonen, a works driver, won the 65 RSC rally, and Goodwood paired me up with him, which was an absolute dream come true. And then in 2013, celebrity chef James Martin came on board and wanted to drive the car, and we ended up preparing him a car and took him to his first win, and we keep going from there. Recently it was Tony Jardine, the ex-Formula 1 pundit. We're hoping to have Christian Horner back in the car in 2020, but my favourite driver really was Barry Wizzo Williams, and he was a chap that really got to the heart of me, and when he passed away it was a really sad time.